Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, the absolute sheer hypocrisy of the Greens is of a scale hitherto unseen by humankind. The level is beyond imagination. Only a couple of weeks ago they were moaning because all these North Sea oil licences had been dished out. They are moaning about wanting to close down the oil industry. No more oil, none of this, none of that, none of the other. They're pushing their green agenda. They're full of absolute horse crap. And the reason we know that is that Gillian Mackay has come out today and said, oh, isn't it sad how terrible the news is about Grangemouth. What an opportunistic wankers. I mean, they really are, aren't they? They sit there and they talk the game about wanting to save the world. Oh, we've got to abandon this, abandon that. Let's have no growth. And then when it happens and when they see people they know losing their jobs, they realise that they are in the wrong. And they try and capitalise on it by pretending that they give a shit about people. And they clearly don't. Let's look at this. Let's see what these tits in green really think. Why are they bothering? Nobody believes them. They're like the SNP. They open their mouths, and when it isn't the lies coming out, it's the sheer stupidity. Here goes. So, Scottish Greens accused of staggering brass neck over the Grangemouth closure plan. I just call it hypocritical two-faced wankery, because that's all it is. They moan and moan and moan about oil, and as soon as something happens that closes down a major industry that brings a lot of jobs, a lot of money, has good training schemes, and will inconvenience them. Oh, it's the most terrible thing in the world. You think it's bad there? These people, if they closed Aberdeen, which is their aim, would see poverty spread like, honestly, like a disease. But that would please them. They are absolutely dangerous people. And you mustn't believe a word, because they obviously are liars. Because they were lying then, or they're lying now. The two are completely incompatible. They can't be telling the truth both ways. Just 2 weeks ago, Gillian Mackay described plans for a new drilling in the North Sea as utterly reckless and planet-wrecking. Now she's enraged at the decision to close Scotland's last oil refinery. Now she strikes me as someone who benefits very much from the oil industry. In her hand is a load of stuff that's made of oil. On her back are clothes that are made from oil. She's someone who looks like she's eaten a lot of food produced with oil. And so for her, oil is quite important. Without oil, she'd be a lot thinner, put it that way. She wouldn't be eating. There'd be no food. For example, without oil, there'd be no tractors. And so all the food would have to be planted by hand. And if that was the limit of her day's job, well, she wouldn't be looking like the poster girl for Greggs. The Scottish Greens have been accused of shedding crocodile tears over the bombshell announcement about the looming closures of Grangemouth oil refinery. Energy giant Petro-Ineos stands to pull the plug from the giant plant in 2025. We did the video about that yesterday, with hundreds of jobs at stake. The site, part owned by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Ineos Group and PetroChina, is to flip operations towards becoming a fuel and import distribution hub. Greens are vehemently hostile to North Sea oil and gas and fiercely opposed to any new drilling or exploration licences. As we mentioned in a previous video a couple of weeks ago, how they were up in arms and angry with Rishi Sunak. How dare you secure the energy future of the country? We want everyone to be cold and dying of starvation. Because that's who these people are. Quite literally, that's what they want. They want no growth. They want no movement. They want 15-minute ghettos. They want... How are you going to move food from the countryside to the towns without oil? They haven't got an answer to that. But they just want no oil. They're dicks of the highest order, aren't they? Anyway, in response to her comments, this is the comments she made after, saying, oh, isn't it terrible about Grangemouth? Flabbergasted Scots Tory MSP, my apologies, Douglas Lumsden said, the brass neck of this Green MSP is quite staggering, giving her party's vehement hostility to oil and gas industry and her own previous comments. The Greens aren't interested in a just transition. They want to decimate the industry immediately with no consideration of the consequences. Gillian Mackay's crocodile tears for the skilled Grangemouth workers will fool no one and offend plenty. Well, they are all offensive. They want to literally destroy everything. They want utter destruction of the world. They want people to die horribly. If you knew how many medicines were made with the oil that they want to stop from being drilled, people will die. Those medications won't be there. Agriculture just won't exist. You'll be back to subsistence farming. We'll go back 10,000 years, pre-agricultural revolution almost, if they had their way, which is why you must always ignore the Greens. He says, this is an appalling way, he said, or Miss Mackay said, this is an appalling way to treat workers who only months ago were being promised that they would be part of a just transition for the site. Instead, they're being told their jobs are at risk just weeks before Christmas. So Jim Ratcliffe and his executives must explain themselves to the community that has, for 100 years, worked loyally and supported this site, and fully expect a better and more sustainable future that would support generations more. Yeah, but they're not in it for generations more. They're in it for the money now. And that is why these people are dangerous, and we mustn't let people get too powerful with too much, influence over industry like this. And it's very... I'm not going to the full communist, but what I mean is a lot more decision must be taken on a social level, put it that way. She said, I grew up less than 200 yards from the plant, and I can tell you right now that workers at the plant are bewildered. And there you have it in that line. I grew up 200 yards from the plant. So her idea of remotely shutting down the whole of Aberdeen, shutting down the oil industry, destroy all this, destroy all that. Oh, it's all very good in principle when it's just the peasants. But when it's people in her family, her friends, people she knows, then it's a terrible thing. Then it's an awful thing. When it's us, it doesn't matter. But when it's them, it matters. Two-faced, utter bullshitting hypocrisy from a woman who should have no power whatsoever, should have no say, no influence. A woman who would destroy everything we hold dear simply for her misguided, stupid, outdated, wanky ideas that would absolutely kill people. But she won't accept that she's wrong because she's green and therefore she's better than us. The Green MSP is now calling for an urgent summit with all stakeholders, including her SNP allies in government, whose hostile policies have been blamed in part for the decision, to discover what they knew and when. Well, surely as a Green, she must be really happy with this. That's her stance. That's her policy. That's her party's policy. But because she knows the people, now it's wrong. Prick. She added, make no mistake, we must move away from fossil fuels. No. You're making the mistake saying we've got to move away from fossil fuels. A world without fossil fuels is a miserable place. It is backward. It is full of death, shortened lives, misery, pain, starvation. The population declining massively. Not enough people to bury the bodies that are dying. People eating children. That's what happens when you introduce starvation. And you get rid of oil, that's what happens. That's what these people are like. They don't know how stupid they are. But fortunately, we do. Which is why we'll never give them power. Anyway, she's going on bullshit and I just can't be even bothered with it. These people just utter... I'm not even going to go on with that. These people sit there. Look at her. There's a woman who has benefited from oil. Like I say, she's someone who's eaten a lot of food. Food produced with oil. No doubt about that. So for a woman who's totally against oil, she may perhaps want to live on a diet where no oil is involved and see how far she goes. Because she won't go far. Not in this day and age. Unbelievable stupidity. I mean, literally. See that folder she's holding in her hand? That folder has got a higher IQ than her. Slimmer too. Coming up. The only saving grace we have is that there are enough intelligent people around who know never to vote for the Greens. I mean, things the Greens won't tell you, for example, is that the internal combustion engine is better for the planet than is the horse. In this day and age, to move things around by horse, I mean, for example, a 40-ton truck would require something like about 40 to 50 horses. They all have to be raised. They all have to be fed. All the food that would otherwise be used by us to eat has to go to the horses, who then fart it out and all that greenhouse gases. And they have to be kept and all that. So that's a very expensive proposition. It's very expensive in terms of feeding them. It's actually more expensive feeding them than it would be to put tank of fuel in, for example. And the methane gases that come out of all those horses in the course of a, say, 100-mile journey would be a lot more than what comes out of the back of a lorry. The lorry will do that 100-mile journey in a couple of hours. The horse would take maybe a week, something like that. So by the time you get there on the horse, the food is spoiled, if you were moving food, for example. So, yeah, the horse, not very good. Not very good if you want to feed people. Whereas the lorry, absolutely brilliant if you want to feed people. And so they won't tell you that, though, even though it's true. Because they're very stupid. They are. Bless them. Bless them. Whenever you see a green, always remember, 90 at max, 90 IQ. There's not many bright greens, I mean, you can be good for the environment, you can save and you can recycle. These are all excellent things to do. But to be totally green and go, oh, no oil, you just know. IQ of a boot. Anyway, I'll finish there. Thank you very much for watching. I think we all know that this two-faced Harridan in particular, at least, will be sitting there and crying into her supper, her tofu, because you guarantee she's a tofu muncher, but by the bucket, by the signs. But she'll be crying into her tofu and thinking, oh, how sad these jobs are gone because they're people I know. Whereas if it was people she didn't know, she'd be going, good, glad they've gone. It's who they are. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.